You're listening to Beyond the Measure, episode 27. Listen as I, a young composer, and my wife, a young choir director, interview other music educators in order to gain insight into their own success in the classroom. We have a lot to learn, and we want you to learn with us. No matter your age, ensemble, or experience, this is the ideal podcast for music educators, composers, and students alike. So join us as we go beyond the measure. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Measure, a podcast for music educators. If you're first time listening to this show, this is a show where me and my wife, Kara, we interview different music educators just to learn more about how they are successful in the classroom in the hopes of helping you become more successful in the classroom as well. Kara is not with me at the moment. She originally recorded an intro with me, and then part of the audio got just corrupted, I guess, and disappeared. And so I'm unfortunately having to re-record this intro. And so she's actually not here at the moment. She's actually at a region meeting with her fellow choir directors here in Abilene. So today's guest is a very special guest named Miss Sarah Gleason. She's a choir director up in Connecticut, and I actually met her at ACDA this year. I was up there, and she actually heard the performance of my choral piece, Shockachi, and we got to talking afterward, and she actually requested if I would be open to considering making a shortened version of that piece, because it's like an 8-minute long piece, and she was really interested in having her high school choir do it, and so I was like, yeah, no, that'd be great. And so I actually made a shortened version that was around 6 minutes long. So both of those versions are actually available on my website now to purchase if you're interested. But so I made that for her, and her choir, her concert choir, premiered it this past spring. So that was a really fun thing. That's how we got to know each other, and now we have her as a guest on the podcast. So let me tell you a little bit about Sarah by reading her bio to you. So Ms. Sarah Gleason has been an active choral director, vocal coach, and musical theater director in Texas, Connecticut, and New York. After beginning her career in Texas, she has been teaching in the new Canaan Public Schools since 2002, first as the Saxe Middle School Choral Director, so sorry if I pronounced that wrong, helping to begin and direct their successful musical theater program. In 2015, she accepted the position of new Canaan High School Choral Director and AP Music Theory Instructor, where she also serves as a musical director for the award-winning NCHS Theater Department. The new Canaan High School choirs have been invited to perform at Carnegie Hall and Radio City Music Hall and regularly receive top ratings and rankings at adjudication festivals. Ms. Gleason's students consistently receive top honors in festivals and competitions, as well as placement in regional, state, Eastern Division, and national ensembles. She has also served on the faculty of Concordia Conservatory of Music and Art in Bronxville, working with kindergarten students through adults and voice lessons and musical theater classes. Ms. Gleason earned her Bachelor of Music Education at Texas Christian University and a Master of Arts in Music at Teachers College, Columbia University. So this is a great conversation that we get to have with Sarah, and if you haven't already noticed from the title, this is actually a part one. We got so much good information from her that we decided, you know what, we would break this up into 2 parts just so it's easy to digest everything that she has to say, which is so good. She talks a lot about how the importance of community in an ensemble, it truly is the foundation of everything else that you build on top of it, whether it's directly related to the music or not. And so she really outlines that really well. We'll have show notes in the description for both episodes separately so that you can see all of the specific points that she touches on throughout that. And something that Kara had said in the original intro we recorded is that she really liked something that Sarah said about attitude equals 100. And I won't say exactly what that is, but that's just something to be listening to. That's something that Kara really liked, that she was like, oh, I'm going to use this going forward. So that'll be really good. But without further ado, I'll get out of here so you can listen to the actual episode. The last thing I do want to mention is at the very beginning, for some reason, recording the audio on my end, it sounds really weird. So it's going to sound kind of crackly at first whenever I'm talking, but I promise it's just at the very beginning, and then it gets better as you go. So thank you so much for your patience, and we're so excited to get going with this one. So without further ado, here is our interview with Miss Sarah Gleason. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the show with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk with both of you.
Yes, yes, we're really excited too. And I do have to kind of give a little bit of background on how I know you, Sarah. So for those of y'all that have been listening, you probably heard me mention a few episodes ago that I was getting ready to go to ACDA. And we're actually recording this in July as of right now, but at the time of releasing this, it'll have only been a few episodes ago where I was talking about I'm going to ACDA in February. And so I did get to go. It was great. I met a lot of great people. And one of the people that I got to meet there was Sarah Gleason, who we have here on the show today. And she heard the performance of my choral piece, Shockachi. That was done in one of the sessions there by the University of Texas at Permian Basin. And so we got to talking later. And she asked me, she was like, hey, I really think it'd be fun for my choir to do that, but do you think it'd be possible if you made like a slightly shortened version? Because 8 minutes of all that intensity can be a little bit harder for a high school choir. So I was like, oh yeah, for sure. And so we just kind of went back and forth, and then sure enough, just a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago now, or a little more than that, her high school choir, actually I think it's been like 2 months at this point, but her choir premiered a shortened version of Shakachi, and so it was a really fun time.
Yes, I'm so glad we were able to collaborate on this. I was immediately drawn to the song once I heard it and drawn to it specifically for the ensemble that was sitting in my room this year. And so it was something I kind of wanted to collaborate with you on now, which that doesn't often happen. Usually you give yourself a little bit more time. And I'm so grateful that you were able to work with us at that time for us to be able to perform it. It really was such a wonderful experience for my students and for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad I was able to be a part of that, and I was going to tell you it was especially nice experience for me because I got to experience a lot of firsts with your group. First of all, one of the big things was this is the first time, at least that I'm aware of, that there was another choir that performed one of my brand new choral pieces, and so this is one of the first times I really got to hear like a different choir than the original choir the piece was intended for sing. So that was really cool. And then on top of that, just having a lot of close collaboration with you as a director, as far as kind of figuring out how do we want to go about with this version of the piece. But also one of the cool things, at least for me, being from Texas, is you're currently in Connecticut, and just knowing that wow, there's a choir on the other side of the country that's singing my music. That's pretty cool to know too, because so far it was a lot confined to Texas, which Texas is a big state, but not as far as Connecticut.
Right. And I loved the Texas connection. I spent most of my life since I was 9 years old in Texas and went through the Texas choral education program, middle school and high school, and all state choir, and did my undergrad work at TCU in Fort Worth, and then taught in Killeen, Texas, kind of an hour outside of Austin for my first 4 years of teaching until my husband and I moved up here to New York. We live in New York State, and I teach in Connecticut. And it is still surreal as someone who grew up in Texas to live in one state and drive to teach in another, because you drive for 6 hours. I'm still in Texas. But up here, I have a 35-minute commute and I'm in another state teaching. So that is still a little bit surreal. But the Texas connection with you was really nice for me. And um, I love having us sing things by living, working composers because it's really wonderful and empowering for the students to be able to bring up questions about the music and to be able to say, that's a great insight. Let me ask them. And to be able to maybe email a conductor. And we were lucky to be able to have a Zoom call with you where you could hear us and give us feedback immediately. I love for students to be able to see living and breathing choral music that is still being worked through by composers, or maybe that piece has been published and is done. But the things they wonder about what a composer was thinking or feeling or where they got their inspiration, they can ask. Because with a lot of pieces for non living composers, we draw some of our own conclusions, and we try to put ourselves in their shoes to be able to communicate the piece. And we do the best that we can. And sometimes we have contextual information, and sometimes we don't. So I loved that part of the experience for them, being able to ask you, and they still bring up you talking about Shockachi and brushing your teeth was where you came up with that
Yeah.
idea.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I forgot I mentioned that to them. Yes. And honestly, I can't remember if I told you, Carol,
No, you
because
didn't.
it's just random. It's just one of those random little things I didn't even think about, but it was just one of those weird times where I just heard the beginning, chi, shaka, chi, shaka, shaka, chi, chi, just like while I was brushing my
I
teeth.
mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe it was the rhythm of the brushing. I don't know.
Keeping it real. The students love genuine, they love authentic, they love us being real. And that was a perfect example.
Oh, that's great. Well, cool. Well, I'm glad it was such a fun time for me and your students and for all of us involved. And I could tell even just from that one time that I was on the Zoom call with you, just a little bit like on the before and after the rehearsal, and just from taking we took like the Zoom picture where they all stood around the screen, and that was really fun. But I could just tell that so many of your students were just very passionate about singing and really enjoyed being there in the classroom, and that's even reflected by the little card they sent me and all the nice things I had to say, which that meant so much to me. And so yeah, I just thought it'd be good if we talk about, and I know you told us earlier that this is something you're really passionate about. It's just creating a community, using choir as a way to create community for students and for it to be a place of belonging. I mean, how does that play out for you?
Creating a musical community is a passion of mine. One of the things I'm most proud of the choir you got to meet is that I was so proud of the job that they did on your song. And every student in that room, that's my Y'all Come choir. It's a non auditioned ensemble. And so, creating community for anyone that walks in your room, I think there are things that we can do no matter who walks in, that breeds the excellence that we all want in the end. But I think starting with musical excellence and choral, excellence, um, starting from that point and thinking in that way, to me, doesn't give the experiences that we want along the way, and in turn, makes us be teachers of music rather than teachers of students. And one thing that is very important to me is, and I tell my students this at the beginning of the year, that I teach you, I teach students. I happen to teach music because it's something I love. And you would see right through me if I was teaching another subject that I was not passionate about. So I happen to teach you music. I have studied a lot of it. I feel like I'm pretty good at it. So we're going to do that together. But I teach you. And without you, I don't matter. And so creating a community, everything starts with the personal relationships with the students. And every music teacher, director, every teacher in general is different on how they're going to approach that. So I don't feel that I can tell someone how to approach building those personal relationships with students. I know what I do, I have ideas, but the foundation of those relationships with students and then helping them to create a relationship with each other is kind of the foundation where everything else is layered on top. And so that creating of community and creating buy-in by the students, to each other, to the program, eventually then they'll buy into the music, is something I'm really passionate about because I think that foundation you can build so much on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you said it so perfectly, and our listeners have probably already noticed by now. We kind of have a new little outro we've added at the end of the end of each episode, and one of the things we say on there is, we hope this helped you so that you can focus less on how to teach, so that you can focus more on who you're teaching, because at the end of the day, like you just said, that's the foundation of who the students are and how you're impacting their character. That makes everything else so much better.
Yeah. So one of the ways that I've thought about that I try to create, I call it student buy-in, is through the classroom environment. And I believe that we can set up and we can model a positive environment and we can set up our classroom to function well. But I think we are fooling ourselves if we think it only takes us to create and sustain that environment. It really takes the students, and it takes admitting that we need them. That admitting that what I have to give can lay the foundation, but it's not enough for the students. And so, are you getting to know them? And a part of getting to know them is letting them know that this is our classroom and I value your presence there and their ideas. So, two things that I do sort of at the beginning that, of course, I've stolen from other people because, we have to be extremely good stealers, is one of the things. At the beginning of the year is I just have one rule. And I kind of went to this after a few years of teaching, and it really is something that I love. One rule could be different for anyone. My rule is show respect at all times. That's it. That's the only thing that's hanging up in the room. And I started this with middle school. And it was really effective with my groups. I've kept it in high school. And that is the only rule I tell them on the first day that I have. And showing respect at all times includes you and me to each other. It includes you to each other. Respect for composers and the work that we are singing, respect for materials and supplies in the classroom. And we talk about how we are good stewards of the things that are around us. I talk about, that I expect them to hold me accountable for respecting them. It's not just you respect me because I'm the teacher, but we show respect at all times. And so then my question to them is, so my rule is show respect at all times. That's the only one I have. But we have to decide what that means to us. And we redo it every year. And they talk about it. And in middle school, I had multiple sections of choirs, and we would take all their ideas and put them together. And very often, some of the same themes emerge, and it's what they want to see. And we talk about it out loud. They also can submit things without their name on it. And my question is, what does that mean to you? Because it really tells me, individual students, what they find important and what is necessary for them to feel respected in the room. And it also tells me collaboratively what's important to them. And so that's one way that they have buy-in from the first day with the rules that I really have grown accustomed to. And the second thing that I do on the first day is this big poster that I have on the wall that says attitude equals 100. And I learned this at some amazing PD session at some point. I am so apologetic that I cannot give credit where credit is due. If you take all the letters in the word attitude and you assign them a number based on what letter they are in the alphabet, so A would be 1 and Z would be 26. If you add up the values of A, T, T, I, T, U, D, E, it equals 100. T is 20, U is 21, I is 9, D is 4. So we go through this together, and I, tell them how to do it, and they do the math, and it equals 100. And I tell them the reason that this is huge and big on my wall is that how you do in this class is 100% reliant on your attitude. And it's the one thing I have zero control over, and you have 100% control over. I can encourage you, but I can't change it at all. And what I've found for a lot of students is right away, it takes the pressure off for individual excellence being the thing that defines them in your room. That having a good attitude is very important to me and important to their success. And it's their decision each day. They can make a different decision each day. And what I've noticed in high school that I didn't find in middle school as much is it takes a little bit of pressure off them for grading. My high schoolers are very, very concerned about their grades. A lot of them take high level classes and they really want to do well, and they get stressed as they're nearing college applications. And they know that they're going to have to do things for me, but those who have had me before know if your attitude's in the right place, it's about your growth and we're going to get there together. So the attitude equals 100 just for the buy-in of the environment at the beginning of the year has really been something that I love. And after I've had students for a year now in high school, where I have them multiple years, my students do the tour of the rules and the attitude. I trust them, and they talk about it, and they let the class know what's important for them to know about Mrs. Gleason and what's important to know about the room. They even came up with Mrs. G slogans, and there's a lot of trust involved there. But oh, I like that. They have. After 1 year with me, I actually encourage them to kind of go over those things in the classroom for the new students to start out the year.
Oh, that's amazing. And what I like about everything that you're saying too, I think there's a key thing you said in there too that I don't want anyone to miss. It's the fact that you said all of that happens on the first day. First, you said right, first day of the school year. Is that right?
Yes, the our rule and the attitude equals 100. Why is that large sign in the front of your classroom?
Yeah. So from the very start, you're setting the standard of what you expect in the classroom, and um, I mean that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the school year. I mean that's what I remember at least when I when I was in school.
Yes, it the first day for me is less about music and more about how I want you to feel when you walk in my room. The as you walk out, it's in on the door of our room as you walk out is the poster, one of my favorite posters with the quote by Maya Angelou: people may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they will not forget how you made them feel. And I like it there so they read it every day when they leave, but I also like it there to remind me that the way students feel when they walk in my room is really important. And it keeps my head in the right place when I get, you know, very small-minded about the music every once in a while, and I lose my broader focus. It helps keep me on track.
Okay. Would you like a way to create a special moment, a unique memory that only you and your students can share? Is there a certain audience you will be performing for and you want just the right type of music for the occasion? Or perhaps you're just in need of a piece that has a specific voicing, range, or theme that you haven't been able to find anywhere else. I mean, last time I checked, publishers weren't scrambling to create music for a bassoon, alto voice, and accordion trio, but maybe that's what you're looking for. No matter the reason or the instrumentation, I would love to fulfill your music needs in the form of a commission. If you're unfamiliar with what commissioning me would look like, or even any composer for that matter, you can learn more about the process at christianfortnermusic.com/commission. This includes info such as the step-by-step timeline, payment options, and more. I want to work with you so that we can create a memorable experience for everyone involved, including you, myself, the performers, and the listeners that will hear the music for years to come. Because remember, you never know whose lives will be changed for the better because of the music that came into existence because of you. So are you ready to make a new memory through new music? I am. Take the first step by filling out a commission request form at christianfortnermusic.com/commission. Hope to hear from you soon. So are there any, so what other ways are you able to get that sort of student buy-in aside from, that first day when you're talking about all those different things?
Something that I have explored over the years and I continue to explore and expand is leadership. At the beginning of my career, it was tough to give up some control because I had studied for this. I have studied pedagogy and training, and I know what to do. And I felt like I had to have all the answers in order to be the expert for them. And over the years, I've become better at giving up control, and I'm still working on it. And the buy in through leadership is empowering them to for their own learning and for peers helping other through their learning. And it's taken on a different look now with a high school ensemble where I have ninth through 12th graders in the same room. Often that leadership looks differently than when it was only the same grade together, sometimes in middle school. So I guess one piece of advice would be trust yourself, Trust that you know yourself, you know your training, you know the vocal pedagogy, but now your focus becomes on who is in your classroom. That there's the quote about they don't care what you know unless they know that you care is so true, especially in middle school. And one way that you can show you're invested in them, the actual students in your class, is giving them leadership roles with each other and within the ensemble. And once you know them, you can decide where you want to give up that control. So it's going to be different in different classrooms and at different age levels. But I think even at an elementary age, giving some control to decision making and to music making is very powerful. So one thing that we do is we have a mentor and rehearsal partner system where every single person has a place in the ensemble. If you come in as a freshman, you get a mentor, which is a junior or senior, every once in a while, a very advanced sophomore, who is your mentor, and they are your person that you can go to if you don't feel comfortable yet coming to Miss Gleason. You don't know me. They help you along the way. But someone who is your person, and I'm pretty adamant that my mentors want to do this and they're willing to form not only a musical relationship, but a personal relationship with that person while they're finding their feet in the choir room. And then everyone else, if you are new to the choir as a senior or as a junior or as a sophomore, and this is in my concert choir that you worked with, where you can come in anytime you want. We called them rehearsal partners because peer to peer, the mentor thing, we learned that after the first year of student feedback, that we wanted another name. So everyone gets a mentor if they're a freshman or sometimes even a sophomore new to the choir. But if you're an upperclassman coming in, everyone has a rehearsal partner system. So during every rehearsal, all right, everybody, get with your rehearsal partner and fill in the blank. There's something every day where they don't have to listen to me talk and they get to talk to someone else. And every once in a while, it's a quick thing. And then they're talking about something else for 30 seconds. Okay. That's part of the connection and the creation of the community is taking myself out of the equation, even for 15 seconds and letting them have a moment. It's also a good check that if I've asked for them to mark something in their music, check with each other. And that enables a new student who might not be as adept at marking their music or unsure. I know what she wanted me to do. I don't have a good marking for that. Someone who privately looks and goes, oh, well, I draw this when I want to do that and help them. And they don't have to raise their hand in front of 45 other people. They don't have to admit when they need some backup because they have backup in every rehearsal. And often my mentors will be like, oh, so and so. It's also a great way to get information. This freshman, Miss Gleason, they really have some background in this. They're good at this. So I get more and more information on students because they're getting to know each other. That system, I think, can be done in a lot of different ways, depending on your ensemble. And it's been a great way to give leadership to students one-on-one within the ensemble.
I've never actually heard of that before, which I mean, maybe you have, Kara, but
My high school, we did like bigs and littles, but it wasn't on that. It was more for like a social. I mean, that's more social as well, but yeah.
Similar thing. Okay, so I mean, so you've heard of those kind of things. Honestly, I had never really heard of that, but I think that's
Yeah, that's
incredible.
awesome.
I mean, and it's so easy to take for granted, especially for someone that's like a junior or senior. Or I mean, even for me, I was new to choir my junior year of high school, and it can be it's easy to take for granted like how intimidating it can be
Mhm.
for someone to walk into a room full of a bunch of it's probably the most people you'd have in a room that's not an athletic team in a school, right? And one of the music ensembles, and so it can be intimidating to, especially when you're literally surrounded by a whole bunch of people that are all probably already familiar with it and being loud and energetic and what they're doing already. And for me as an introvert in high school, that was a little intimidating at this time, so I think that's something I would have thrived with for sure.
Well, it gives everyone a place to serve. There are students who will never be elected as choir president. We do have some leadership positions like president, vice president, social chair, or they don't want to be in front of the whole choir, but they could still serve. Someone who might not be um, a gregarious or loud personality, but musically is very adept. Maybe they've also played an instrument before they came into the choir. It gives them a place to shine and serve. And it also gives someone a place to be assisted without admitting that to the entire group. It's kind of setting them up for giving them what they need from the beginning. Um, yeah, and it has worked well for us. In addition to, um, I have a lot of choir director friends who don't do choir officers, they don't do section leaders. And I have in my program, because when I first came to the high school program, I talked to them and the students decided this is what we would like. And I said, okay. And we tried it and we've changed officer positions and gotten rid of some and added new ones and renamed them every year because we meet at the end of the year and we say what worked, what didn't. So I think I don't think there's a right or a wrong way, but I think talking to them about what sort of leadership is important. The officer group for me has given me the ability to have small group feedback, 8 to 10 students, about everything. I talk to them about everything from fundraising to how we celebrate birthdays to pieces of music that I'm not getting the vibe of how the choir is feeling. It gives you a group of people that have applied for these positions. They want to serve, they want to be more involved, they have opinions. And it gives me that small group. And what positions you have, I think, is whatever fits your group. I didn't have as many positions in middle school, but I did create something where they could show me that they wanted to be more involved and they wanted to take leadership. Um, and then there's ownership with each other. And some of the things that I love to have are completely non-musical positions in the officer position. So, for instance, our president, our section leader, there are certain requirements musicality wise. My president can lead warm ups at any time. So, my substitutes, I get requests to substitute in my classroom because they do nothing. My students lead the entire rehearsal. And in middle school, it was very close. I needed the sub for a little bit more. But we set up a system where the president and the vice president is prepared to do that. And technically, any of my section leaders can lead warm ups. And we practice a few that they like. They have people that play piano in the ensemble they can call on. They don't have to do it themselves. We do a lot of warm-ups that are completely a cappella, and they can pick their own. So I have them do that regularly to lead one thing, so that they're prepared to do it on a moment's notice. Something comes up with a student, walks in the classroom, and they need me for a second. So I look at my present, would you mind getting them starting up, maybe, breathing warm up? Absolutely, because it's something that we already do. So whether they're officers, whether they're just leaders, uh, giving them empowerment to lead the ensemble or lead a section um, also makes rehearsal time go faster because they're not just listening to me the whole time and not staring at me. We break into sections. We did this in middle school as well, all the time. All the time, they need time away from me. They need not to hear my voice. I become like mother's voice, where I tell them, 20% might stick in there, and the rest is just like the Charlie Brown teacher, wah, 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 is what they start hearing. I'm very aware. So getting them away from me, going into section circles, even if it's sing something we just did and talk about what comes next, or talk about if you can hear your vowels agreeing or not. It can be something very simple, but time to be away from me, and you need someone to lead in that. So a section leader or a designated person that changes every day. That I think that leadership is something that has really given us buy-in to the group. It's our group. And then buy into the music making because they start holding each other accountable for the music making without me being involved.
Wow. Wow. Oh, I think that's incredible. That it reminds me of there's another podcast I listen to by Craig Groeschel, who's a pastor of Life Church in Oklahoma, and he's a pastor, but he does a podcast just on leadership. And one of the things he always says is that the best leaders don't just create good followers; they create other leaders. They grow other leaders because you want the people that are following you to become leaders themselves. They're not just following you. That's not good leadership, right? And that's exactly what you're doing in that kind of context. I think that's amazing.
I love that. I have learned as I give up control that part of the systems that we've created together that are successful are because I started listening more and more and more to their ideas. And that is very important, I think, at any age level with any ensemble, not even within the school, community courses, church courses, but especially with adolescents. Listen to all of their ideas, every single one. Yes, the crazy ones about the song that they want to sing that will just not work with a choral ensemble. And, you're thinking in your head, oh, sweetie. But you listen to every single idea and you will learn so much about what's important to them. You will learn so much because they are honest. And if you listen, they'll keep talking. And great ideas are going to come. The crazy ones about the party they want to have and the outings and, things that they want to do, you'll find ways to incorporating them, finding ways to facilitate their ideas, empower them, take that idea and maybe find a way to turn it around and say, so I remember you saying this to me. Do you think you could help me with so-and-so? And if they really believe you will listen, they will keep talking and they're honest. And then you'll get them coming up without you even asking after and telling you when something is not going well or when they're frustrated. And the amount of times they mention things to me that I might not have seen in a rehearsal or heard in their section because I'm looking at the whole picture is such valuable information. We need their feedback and they are great sounding boards. So I encourage all new teachers, listen to everything, all their ideas, even if they're crazy, because it'll breed that conversation that you're going to want to have. And it's going to help in the future for you to create things that you might not have thought of yourself.
It reminds me of one of our professors at Hardin-Simmons University here in Abilene. And I think I've mentioned this in a previous episode, but Dr. Romines, who we actually interviewed in one of our first episodes of the show, he always would say in class, great students make great teachers. And he didn't say it in a way that meant if you're a good student, you'll become a good teacher, although that is true. He meant like good students make the teacher even greater. And I think that's a great example of how that plays out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I need them probably more than they need me some days.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Beyond the Measure, a podcast for music educators. We hope you learned something that will help you stress less about how to teach so that you can focus more on who you're teaching. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a rating and review, subscribe, and share this podcast with other music educators. See you in the next one.